What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're watching this video, hopefully you're doing the extra like we are. This is going to be our part 3 / bonus if you want to do this. And what we're doing today is going to be a suspension refresh on Brian's Hardbody. This is going to be all for the front. We are going to be messing with the drop spindles and everything here in a minute. So we figure it's the best time right now to switch everything with the steering, everything with the suspension, make sure everything's fresh and new in there. So hopefully it'll make the truck ride super nice. So we have here on the table right now everything that we're going to use. We have the idler arm, tie rod ends, adjusting sleeves, ball joints for the upper and lower, the center link. We have basically everything that we need to go ahead and make that front suspension just be completely new. So we're going to be installing this, so we're going to show you everything once we start putting it in the truck, what we're taking off and everything. So hopefully if you're going to do any front suspension refresh, this video will help you out and get that done. So what do you think, Brian? It's going to probably ride pretty nice after this.
Make it like a Cadillac.
Hopefully it'll ride like a Cadillac, a very old Cadillac. So, so hopefully it's not too bad. So let's get up and move on to the truck and let's get to it. Hey guys, really quick before we jump right into the video, I just wanted to say that if you have been watching our channel and you watch our part 2 on the drop spindle, the second part of this video about halfway through is going to look very familiar because that's the part that we did with the ball joints and everything, and we put that one on our last video. We thought it was important to have it in there in case you wanted to replace all of that. So it's pretty much the same section of it as far as the ball joints go. So if you watch that video, you can basically watch the first half of this one, and then the second half you already seen it. If you haven't watched that video, I'll link to it at the top so you guys can look, take a look if you need to. Or we wanted to put this in one whole section as well because if someone is trying to do just a suspension refresh, they're not switching their spindles and they're not doing anything with that, we wanted to make sure they had a video about it on how to swap out the ball joints, the upper ball joints, and all that stuff related to it. So that's what we're doing today. So if you haven't seen that, check it out on the top. If you have, you can pretty much watch the first half of this video and then skip the second half of that. So let's get right into it. And just to show you guys here, we have our center link, we have our lower ball joints, our upper ball joints, the adjusting sleeves. This is the tie rod ends. We have from both sides tie rod end as well, and then we have our idler arm right here. We got all these parts from Rock Auto, so they got pretty good prices. So that's the cheapest we could find it versus buying a complete kit somewhere else, and they have pretty good brands and everything, so we have pretty good luck with them so far. So I recommend you guys check them out if you're looking for some part kind of like this. But basically we are ready to start moving to the truck, taking all the old parts off, and then let's get into switching all of this. So let's do it. Alright guys, so hopefully if you're watching this video, you already know how to remove all of this for the front brake calipers and spindle, because we're going to need to remove all of that to be able to switch our ball joints on the top and bottom, as well as all the front suspension here that we need to refresh. So hopefully you already know how to get to this. If you don't know how to get to this point, check out part 2 on how to remove the front suspension and the front brakes and all that stuff, and then you can go ahead and get to this point so we can start removing the ball joints and removing the tie rod ends and everything else that we're going to refresh with the brand new kit in there. So let's do it. Check it out guys, so we have now removed the cotter pin in there. We loosened up this nut. This is a 19mm nut, and the easiest way we found to do it was basically someone hold the steering wheel, with someone comes here with a breaker bar or maybe some power tools and loosen that nut up. We didn't fully remove it because we need to get that tie rod end out, and the best way is going to be to basically loosen it up and either hit it with a hammer or rent the tie rod end removal tools from like AutoZone or something, and use the forks to get it out of there. Hopefully you guys don't have a problem. We had to really struggle with this cotter pin here. It broke halfway trying to come out. Really old, you know, these trucks are old. We don't know when's the last time this was replaced, and that was a real problem. But now that we have it off, we're going to loosen this bolt so we can take this whole unit as one piece, and we can put our new one in as hopefully one piece as well, about the same length. So let's get it out, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright guys, so as you can see here, we have removed the tie rod ends here. We are in the process of trying to remove the stabilizer bar, so that's what we're going to do next. And then on this side right now, let me show you here the bar. So basically we took this out as one whole piece because we want to put the new one and match it up to the exact size that this is, to hopefully have it pretty close to alignment how it was before. So this one, we don't want to tear this apart. We have all brand new pieces for this. So with the new pieces, we're going to make this piece exactly how it is. Now let me show you here on the driver's side. We are removing this cotter pin, and then we're going to take the stabilizer bar off of this. And then basically on the passenger side, we're just going to go ahead and remove the idler arm, which is this piece right here, with the whole bar as one piece. We're going to take that out because we're putting a brand new stabilizer bar, we're putting a brand new idler arm, so then we won't have a need for this one's in here. So making our life easier this way, taking it all off. And then what we're going to do is, next, let me show you the new pieces over here. We have our idler arm, we have our stabilizer bar, so that we're going to put it together and then put it back in place to where it is, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay guys, so as you can see here, we have now removed the idler arm as well as the stabilizer bar right here. You can see it on the side. We are gonna go ahead and start replacing that with the new part. But also one thing we want to tell you guys, you can take some of these bolts off before you have to put a wrench on the back, because it's gonna start spinning if you don't. So we use our 3/4 inch, but they're actually, what was it, Brian, 19? 19. They're 19 millimeter, or you can use a 3/4 and they'll help you get it out. But we hold them from the back. You'll have access to all 3 bolts from the back on the other side of the frame. And then once you get them, you basically loosen them up, and then we can get this whole bar out. So now we're gonna go ahead and move on to putting the new bar into the new idle arm, getting that part set up, and then we're gonna put that in place that way. Another thing that I wanna mention to you guys, the bar kind of angles. As you can see here, it has this little thing. We don't know what that's for. It doesn't attach to anything as far as we know. But it has 2 little angles on it. Those angles need to go towards the front of the truck. So make sure you don't put your bar with the angles going this way, because then it's not going to match up to anything, and your alignment and everything's going to be completely off. So do it towards the front, and then we should be good. So we're going to move on to putting the new parts in place. Let's do it. Alright guys, so Brian here is putting the small bits that we need on the new stabilizer bar so we can grease them up later on. So he's putting those on there, and then we're going to move on to put everything back. We're actually going to put the idler arm first, because we think it's going to be a lot easier to put the arm in place and then put the stabilizer bar up in there, as opposed to trying to do how we took it out. Obviously the bar weights, and then the stabilizer arm is the more chances of it going crooked on these bolts than we want to. So let's put the idler arm first, and then we'll move on to adding the bar in place, and then we'll start doing the rest of the stuff. So let's do it. Alright guys, so we put our idler arm first before we did the stabilizer bar. The reason why is we didn't want any extra weight on it, so we didn't do it the exact way we took it out. We just did a little bit on parts, putting it back in. But it's all in there. We torqued our bolts to about 50 foot-pounds. We found online that there was a range between 40 to 70 foot-pounds, a couple different opinions and everything. So we think 50 foot-pounds is going to be a good kind of middle ground for it. But they're all torqued now. Then we added our stabilizer bar. We connected both the idler arm and the actual steering arm on the other side. So that's good. We haven't bolted this ones yet. We're gonna first try to do our tie rod ends and everything, and making sure everything looks good. And then after that, then we're gonna come in and do the actual torquing. So let me show you on this side. Here we have the all arms exactly how they came out of the truck. And the reason why we wanted to take them out just like that is because here we have all the brand new parts. We are gonna try to put these ones and match them up to the exact same size that these ones are. So hopefully when we put this all brand new in place, it's gonna be not too far off and not having some crazy weird alignment, so that we can take it to the alignment shop, and then it'll be a lot easier for them and easier for us to drive it there. So hopefully it all is gonna come out as a good plan when we finish. So now we're basically now ready to start putting this together and try to match them to that size. So we're gonna do that next, and then we're gonna add these ones into the truck and move on from there. So let's do it. All right guys, check it out. So we've been working on the spindle. We are working to remove the top and lower ball joints because we are going to be replacing those on this truck. We're going to put brand new ones in there. If you're not replacing them, you don't have to worry about taking them off. But the tip that no one's talking about online, we searched for it and we couldn't find a clear answer, was on how to get these bolts loose. They're kind of hard. They actually take quite a bit of force. So we had to use a breaker bar in here. Brian had to push it and put kind of basically his whole body weight into it. But for the driver's side, you push the spindle all the way to the right. Let that bottom part. There's a bar here that holds kind of like the this bar right here. That's where your tie rod end connects and everything. Remove that bar. It takes a 19mm socket. For this nut right here, you got to remove that one. Once you remove that one, you twist the spindle all the way to the right on the driver's side, and then you use a 27mm for the bottom ball joint, and you're going to use a 22mm for the top ball joint if you're going to remove just the spindle itself. If you're doing like us and you're replacing your ball joints, the top one, all you need to worry about is basically removing the 4 bolts, and that's going to come off by itself. But before you even get to that part, remove your bottom ball joint nut. That's the toughest one. That's going to be the 27mm. Remove that one first. Put it all the way to the right. Hit it with a breaker bar. Force, whatever you need to do. And then remove that one first. Once it's loosened, you can spin it up. Don't take it completely off, but just spin it up as much as you can. And then you can go ahead and move into this one. Like I said, this is going to be a 22mm. Or if you're replacing the whole ball joint, then just remove the 12. This is a 12mm bolts on the top. There's 4 of them. Take them off, and then this is gonna come off by itself. And then you can go ahead and move on to removing this one. But we're gonna hit it with the forks here to make sure it's loose and it's gonna come off easily before we even get to touching this part. So do that first. Check it out, guys. So now we have our spindle finally off after removing the tie rod end. Doing the bottom, like we told you guys, removing, making sure that nut is loose as much as possible, just a little bit back in place so we can just use the fork, take it out, smack it out of the way. And then in our case, since we're doing brand new ball joints on the top, we basically just unbolted the 4 bolts on the top and everything is out of the way. So we are good to go there. We are now ready to start getting our lower ball joint out of the way. Once we get that one out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and swap out the new shock and then move on to putting everything back together. All right, guys, we finally got our boot off of here. So we are basically ready to take the snap ring off and then press our lower ball joint, put the new one in there, and then get going with doing basically putting everything back together the right way. So let's pop that one off, and then we'll move on to replacing our shock and putting the new one in there. Let's do it. Here we have the snap ring that was in there holding the ball joint. So as you can see, we took it out, and what we used to take it out was we had some of these pliers that open up, and then we used a combination of flathead and needle nose just to kind of grab the edge of it and then start propping it up, and then now it's completely off. So all right, guys, so here we are using the C-clamp we rented out of AutoZone, or I think actually we got this one out of Riley's. We went and swapped it out because we thought we had an issue with the ball joint press, but it was just user error from our part. But here's how we're gonna set it up. Basically, you're gonna put your big adapter on the bottom, put the plate, put the C-clamp, and then we're gonna put the press bolt, I guess you could call it, right on top with the ball joint. We're pressing it down, And then now we're gonna pop that one off. We hit it with some PB Blaster around there just to make sure it's lubricated and goes in there. It makes the process hopefully a little bit easier. And then we're pressing it down. So it already popped once. We're gonna hit it a little bit more, make sure it comes all the way out. And then we should be able to just take it out and put the new one in there. So let's do it. Alright guys, so as you can see here, after you push it down enough, it's just going to pop completely off. The whole ball joint is now off of it. So we're going to clean up here, make sure there's no debris in between it. We don't want anything to get trapped up in there. Clean it up pretty well, and then we'll move on into putting the new ball joint in and also swapping the shock. So let's do it. Alright guys, so here's the passenger side. It's also completely off. We just want to also tell you, make sure when you're doing this, if you're going to be pressing it out, make sure your plate is center and not moving out of your bottom on the C-clamp. That's very important, because if it starts twisting, that can hurt you. You know, it can pop off at any time, the wrong way and everything. So make sure your plates are very center on the C-clamp, on the control arm itself, and then your bolt is pressing straight into the top of the ball joint here. But now we are ready to start pressing our new ball joints in place. Alright guys, as you can see here, we have our new ball joint pressed in on the passenger side. And the one way we check to make sure it's fully pressed in, there's a small lip here on the bottom where the bottom one is going to match and go against here. I'm gonna have to use my other camera so you can get a good look in there. But once that is fully seated all around it, that's when you know you're good. And now we're able to put our ring into it, so it's nice and secure. Then we're gonna put our dust boot in there, and then we're basically put the little pivot so we can put some grease in it and then grease it up and everything. So we should be good. But now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next step. Try to finish up here so we can start putting our new drop spindle in place. Alright guys, just want to tell you that whenever you're going to do the ball joints, make sure you rent the master adapter set from AutoZone, as well as the ball joint press set. And then you're going to be using 27310D and 27310M to basically press in the new lower ball joint. This part goes on the bottom, and then this one goes on the top, and then you press it in, and then you should be good. It should be all in, nice and secure, hopefully. Make sure you put your snap rings back in there. Make sure everything's looking good. Put your dust boot in there, and then basically we are now ready to put in our new drop spindle. We also went ahead and put the top ball joint in here, so that's already in place. That's already secure. Basically now we're ready to put our new drop spindle in place, secure it, and then make sure we add our tie rod ends into it. So let's do it. So there you have it guys, that's basically all it takes to upgrade or refresh your front suspension components. We were taking this video at the same time as we were doing the drop spindle, so we apologize if some of the clips seem a little bit short, a little bit cut out. The drop spindle video took priority over this one, and that's why we made this one into a bonus / part 3 video. If you are doing this to a truck that is not being dropped, something that you're not putting a drop spindle in, all these steps should be the same. It's going to help you upgrade that front suspension anyways, whether it's factory or drop. So take a look and hopefully it'll help you on your Nissan D21. That's basically all I have for today guys. We really appreciate everyone that has subscribed, and if you haven't yet, please consider doing so. We're getting pretty close to 1,000 subscribers, and we're pretty excited about that. So help us get there and make more great content for you guys. That's all I have for today. My name is Brian, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.